Kissoon Show. Bring it!
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their
right.
Unlike the right that someone has, all of our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you disrespected the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem that you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Hi there, pleasant Wednesday evening to you. As you can see, on my left is my co-host Leonard Craig, and this is the dialogue format of the Freddie Kissoon Show. We did say to you months ago that we'll have another format apart from the call-in and the guests, that Craig and I will exchange analyses, opinions, and interpretations of what's going on. We did say months and months ago that people would like to hear our analyses, because when you have the guests, you're hearing what the guests say, and our interpretation of what the guests say may not gel. So we use the rapping session with him and I to offer our interpretation. So because of the election, there's so much to interpret about that election, and we did say in one of these programs that we'll have to spend many more of these programs analyzing the election. So we will have our guests on Friday, but Craig and I will look more analytically or more in depth at the elections. Now, one of the things I have seen people talking about, of course I don't have a Facebook page where people tell me, one of the things people are talking about is the diehards on Facebook talking about the elections and was it free and fair and what have you. But the election results showed that the PPP got 3 more seats from 2020. A party that was nowhere near 2020 and only entered the race 3 months before the election got 16. Now, you got to be really sick, idiotic. You shouldn't be part of modern civilization. If you're going to accuse the PPP of doing skullduggery, and this skullduggery did, it allow another party to get 16 seats. What you should have done is give 3 seats to that party, and you take the 16. So it doesn't make it really you want to know if human beings can be so psychotic. I mean, psychosis is a problem, but for someone to lay blame on election conspiracy and election skullduggery, it could be also those people who are saying those things. There are psychological terms to it, that you're so damaged psychologically that you cannot see the reality. It doesn't exist for you. And you actually and seriously and at the psychological level, when you look there, you're not seeing what other people are seeing. It's just called a genuine illusion, in which people could be under genuine illusions. Now, the reality is the PPP got 3 more seats, got 9,000 more votes, and therefore if it dug deeply to reshape this election, you didn't see it. Because a party that was nowhere got 60 seats. So why would the PPP accept 36 and not a 2/3 majority if it had decided to do skullduggery? Anyway, there's something before Craig commented I wanted to say, in that I think Craig and I agree, and most people agree, that Norton went in a direction with the lunatic fringe and embraced them, and that was fatalistic. If you have a PPP stronghold like Lenora, where the president comes from, Port Morant, where Chelly Jagan was born, and on Facebook page, some closely aligned trollers or closely aligned social media influencers were posting, we can beat these African people bad. They got no right to be in Guyana. We can chase them out. Do you know Barra Jagdeo and Nandlal, most of all the President Priyamanichan, would have gone to those places and say, listen, we don't want you to be saying this. And if you continue to say this, we're going to disassociate ourselves. And I tell you, there would have been some serious lashes from the PPP leadership. The PPP said, listen, men would have fly up there and use very strong language. Say, don't put those things in our name. And if you're associated with the PPP, we don't want that. And I think Norton should have done that with Hines or Gonse. You know what Gonse said? Gonse said black people saying they've been discriminated against. And you, the majority in the army and the police, you got the guns. Just use the guns. And then the story. You could imagine a PPP guy aligned to the PPP saying, well, you know what the PPP got to do? They got power now. Just scrap all them policemen and put Indians inside the force. You know what Jagdeo or Fanani Nandlal would have said? But Norton, I think, the fatalistically went in that direction. I want to end and bring in Craig with something Norton told me in 2012 in Linden. And I was surprised. And it's just sad that a man that's been in politics for so long hasn't learned. Something happened along the way when he became leader. This is what Aubrey Norton said to me. I can't remember. Yes. We were alone. I can't remember who else was there. And he said that when Carl Greenidge contested to be the PNC leader, at the Congress, something horrible, terrible, culturally insulting, anthropologically despicable occurred against Greenidge. He said people began to use very nasty terms. He said the lumpen proletariat element, the lumping element, some women, they began to confront Greenidge with horrible insults about his height, calling him a word you do not use at all to call an African guy. And he's actually calling that word. And they were ridiculing him. And he said the current leadership of the PNC were right there and did not intervene. And he said Norton couldn't believe this was what the PNC had become. Norton told me that. And Norton, sadly, became part of that ambiance and refused to disassociate himself from that ambiance. That was just fatalistic.
It seems like the PNC, in their internal struggles, have a history of what you just described against Greenidge. Alexander was on this program and he gave that exact description as his reason for leaving the PNC, as his reason for resigning. After he left Team Alexander, he complained about how he was treated And he said that he could not subject his dignity to that. And that is why he resigned from the PNC. Winston Murray, prior to his death, complained of that because Winston Murray did challenge for the leadership. And prior to that, he complained of it. And so it seems like whenever there's internal struggle, it becomes so intense and so personal and so... Yeah, that...
culturally insulting.
That people find it hard to come back from that and become or continue to be entrenched in that system. And it seems as though it continues because Vanessa Kissoon gave that as a reason for resigning, and that was just the other day, which means that it's a prevailing culture. And part of the rebuilding process, Norton and whomever else will be part of the rebuilding team have to address that frontally, because there are lots of people who still love their party, but they may choose to serve in another way, or even if they don't like a particular leader. I've seen people serve in party in ways you wouldn't even know that they have issues with the leader, but they don't interact with the leader. Aubrey Norton himself, at one time he and Granger were at odds. And I doubt whether these two gentlemen used to speak on friendly terms, but you couldn't know because Aubrey Norton continued to work. And you can go through the PNC and even in the PPP you can go through and you can find people who weren't on speaking terms with the leader or the general secretary, but they continue to serve for the love of the party and not for the love of personality. And I find like Aubrey wasn't able to remove himself from that, and he found himself bogged down in that. And he pandered to the fringe, and he became the fringe.
Yeah, it's that man I have known so well. I've had so many intellectual exchanges with him. I grew up with Alexander. We were born a corner away from each other. We spent 26 years at UG. I'm not at liberty for fear of libel, although I could say something that is not libelous. I could tell you about the discussions Alexander and I have. At one time, Alexander admitted to me some of the faults Burnham had. And these guys, Norton, Alexander, Leonard Craig, if you know them the way I did, they have good, sound analytical minds. These are not mediocre people who don't understand politics. So when he began to go in that direction, not denouncing Ogunse, not denouncing David Hines, I think he became a prisoner of that lunatic fringe. One of the things he didn't realize, and a low-income job or a very low work, a working class person that cleaned the trenches, that weeds the parpet, because of their low economic status, it doesn't mean they're not decent people. I have argued in my long years in politics that the amount of businessmen that a party attracts cannot give them 5 seats. You need 33 seats. And if you take all the businessmen with the billions, they're not come up to a seat.
Right.
Likely the people that started Slow Fire, More Fire in 97, the people that you sent a pelt brick in people's house and broke up PPP meetings, they cannot give you 3 seats. They're not numerically that strong. The strength of the PPP and PNC is decent, ordinary people. They're not intellectual. What makes you think a person that sells fish in the market, that woman or that man doesn't have 3 children, They try to take care of their children, the fish income. But what makes you think they're bad people, cost down people? And that's the mistake, I think. Not the lunatic fringe, Norton and PNC people made in that kind of language by Burke or Gonse, it turns off decent people who say, nah man, they're speaking for us, them kind of people. And I'll tell you something that they didn't learn in the campaign. About a month before the campaign ended, they started to pick on Mohamed. They started to and he did
not even a month. I think it's the last 2 weeks.
Right. They started to even Norton, and you know he did not respond. He did not frontally said them. They talking about me. They really you know, the man realized that if he had gone in that direction,
he himself could have turned off people.
People would have said, "Man, DZ cussing down with and the man, tell you, did not just ignore them. They didn't even learn from a newcomer like that.
Yeah, and I grew up in Berbice. I am on both sides of the river, Leeds in Quarantine, and my mother is from West Berbice, number 5. And my formative years was in Leeds, and older teenage years, and so I spent in West Berbice, where I'm registered to this day to vote. And whenever I go back home, and this last time when I go back home, people approach me, and I'm talking about ordinary, everyday people from the village, approach me and say, look, I with you, I want you to know that I vote in PPP like you. And they're attempting to comfort me by saying, hey, don't listen to them people. I just read on Facebook. I don't say nothing. I don't comment. But I see what they're telling you. They know who you is. You decent. They know who you is to this village. And things like that. And so these guys don't understand. And Freddie, I did something during the election season. I look on the PPP posts. I look on the PPP people's posts. People who have been calling me names. I look on the James Bond. And I just took a sample of the comments and the people. You know, you can go through them. And as day follows night, it's a group of about 50 people under all of these things spreading hate. And when you see these things all over, you believe that a lot of people
800,000
a
you million outside
you believe so many and half of the 50 do not live in Guyana, right? And if you come from Mars and then you run through under Priyamanik Chan or you run through under James Bond and you see the people with the vehement hatred that is spewing and calling names and racism and so on, you would believe that Guyana have so many people who hate the PPP and hate PPP followers. But it's a mirage that they don't understand that the people are so few. And this proves, this particular election proves that your core is extremely small. These people who voted for the PNC now are diehard.
75.
And it's only 75,000. The others are saying that we still like you, the ones that stayed home, are saying that we still like you, but you got to change your ways, you got to change your message, you got to change something. We're not voting for anybody else. We just withholding our vote from you. Then there are others who completely switched. And then there are others who, by no means, I don't think those who are supporting Mohamed is permanent. I think
that's I think it's a passing.
I think it's a thing for now. And if the PNC get their act together, they could reclaim some of that territory. But it's a clear signal that your diehard followers, just a few, right? A few in Region 6, a few in Region 5 add up to be 75,000. And for the size of that party, 75,000 is a drop in the ocean. Is nothing.
But look what was beginning to happen 2 weeks before the election, and you thought Norton just has to go. He's just gone. Look what happened 2 weeks before the election. You thought that would have called for an emergency meeting at the PNC. Kojo McPherson, I know McPherson from UG. All that I have known of Kojo McPherson was that he's this kind of African into African consciousness.
Yes.
Marjorie McCoskey was at one time associate, one time was part of Epadaji.
Yeah.
When you were part of Epadaji, you know what you are? You're dying the world.
Africanist, if there is such a word.
Right.
Yeah.
You have Sarah Buhali, who is a stepdaughter of David Hines. When these people began to make these moves, I think it should have sent a signal to Norton. These are intellectual Africans who understand Guyanese politics.
And who understand Africanness
Yeah.
and the needs of African people.
And then there was a lawyer, a woman lawyer, an African woman lawyer that joined Win. I think shouldn't that was a big red sign that this man.
But you remember Ganesh Maipal came on our program and said, "Don't worry with the black people that following thing. Don't worry with the Africans that following." When I took a look at the list, the people on the list came from the candidates came from East Indian areas, and it's a PPP
You said that
thing.
in my home to me.
And the PPP got to worry about that, and they're presenting this thing as though everything is all right. I spoke to a number of candidates. I mean, this is a small society, and some people on the other side are going to be your friends. And one of the gentlemen who is a candidate for the PNC said, "Man, I go out every day, and I'm telling you, people who follow and win are the easiest to convert back to PNC. We just got to meet them." Because he told me that he go out, and in an afternoon he counted, he met with 20 people, some of them in groups, some of them by themselves, and he was able to convince them of certain conscious thoughts, so to speak. And they say, all right, they're not going to move, they're still with the thing. So he believes that those who chose to follow in are the easiest to convert. They just got to go out and meet them.
Some of them, the present crop that Norton engineered into the Central Council of the PNC, some of them are lamenting the absence of Granger Harmon. But you have to understand who are these people. These are big names in the African community. One was the president of Guyana and head of the army. One was the chief of intelligence of the army, the minister of the presidency. Those guys weren't going to go and subsume themselves under Norton.
Right.
And also the fear of, if we tell he, don't go there, he may say, you know who I am, I'm the leader. And I think Granger may have found it infodig, for those who don't know the Latin term, below his dignity, to begin telling Norton, only to find that Norton said, no, I don't, so-called Greenwich, Harmon, Markacha, and those big names under Burnham, and then became big names in the 2015. You could imagine how those people felt about Norton. So you know what they said? Now I'm going to say something that I don't think Harmon is going to knock me for. I could say it now that the election is over. He said it to me over the phone in your presence. I don't know if you heard it. No, you couldn't hear it when my mango pelter. When I called him to interview him, you were right next to me. He said, I can sit this one out. That's what
I heard that.
Right. I mean, look, if I can speak, I only know one person in the PNC leadership right now to the level that I can speak to, because we've known each other a long time and we can speak very, very closely. That's Sherwin Benjamin, the General Secretary. I've known him a long time and we have a good relation. And I will get to Sherwin and tell Chauvin, listen, you've got to start the reorganization now.
Yeah.
You've got to, and as Win falters, as within Mohamed doesn't have a structure. He doesn't have a party head office. I don't think he can build one. I think he had a short-term ambition, and that translated into political success.
Having said that, we gotta learn from Trump. Trump started in just the same way, and then he became. So don't discount that possibility.
But I believe Trump. Has erred so badly now that he had power that they're gonna lose the midterm election, and he may very well be I can't see
You go ahead.
Yeah, I cannot see Trump winning midterm. Anyway, the point I was making is that I don't know if that is the intention of Mohammed to stay 5 years. I don't know if some of the
it may not be his intention, but all I'm saying, you see, Mohammed would have something that no other opposition party other than the PPP to some extent have the capacity to do. Mohammed got a vault where he could just go in and take out money as he wishes.
As Clement Rowe said today in the papers.
And he can, not match the government, but he can do enough to show that, hey, look, I'm not in government.
No, but there's a downside to that. I don't think any of the political parties historically have taken out that kind of substantial sum from their pockets. They just didn't have it.
That is the point I'm making. That makes him different.
Right. But there's a point where that is going to have diminishing return. You can't just dip it. He's not earning. All of his business are flat now. So his business was probably bringing in a couple millions every month. So at the end of the year, he was probably earning a couple hundreds of millions. Right. There's no investment. There's no contract. There's nothing. He can't even open a cake shop. And if it's known to be associated with it. So in another 5 years, if he keep dipping into that huge resource he has, he's going to turn around and say, it's gone. And it will go. He has spent an enormous amount on this campaign. He literally just was giving hundreds of millions away. So at a particular point in time, he's got to now start to become a political party with workers, with an executive committee. I am not too sure if that's going to be in the long haul for him. But the other thing is, if he keeps faltering in Parliament, it gives the PNC a chance to regroup. And one of the keys for the PNC is to go in Parliament and stop shooting from the hip.
Yeah,
when the
strategic unbalance.
When the PPP does something good, right? Get up in Parliament and say we cannot, as an opposition party that loves this country, we cannot be dishonest and criticize that. We like the people in this country to know we will criticize when we have to criticize, and we will criticize harshly, but when it's in the interest of the government, when it's the interest of Guyana, our patriotism comes first. And if they go on to that theme, and if they start to go out and cultivate people in the Muslim Hindu community and put their Indian faces and Amerindian faces together, that's going to be the party of Forbes Burnham again and Desmond Hoyt.
The other problem the PNC has had over the last few years is what I would call a deficit of personality. It doesn't necessarily have to be cultic, but they have a personality deficit in their executive. And let me give you an example. Amanza first foray in politics, Amanza Walton Desir, first foray in politics, was 2020
Yeah.
when Granger appointed her to Parliament.
Civil, and she became civil
But
aviation. Yeah.
no, but she was at civil aviation prior. She was a public servant.
Oh,
but her
okay.
first foray
Okay, I
in
didn't know
politics
that.
is
Right.
after Granger appointed her.
And she became a parliamentarian.
And then she became a parliamentarian. And it did not take long for her to be nationally known and loved and respected. And so she held her own. And she has a personality that people can love and endear, that endear people to her. Roysdale Ford, personality developed because he took on all of those cases.
Yeah, and he's a
right, and he got a
fine lawyer
nationally
too.
known name, and he's a good lawyer and what have you. So he had a personality that could hold its own. But when you look through Aubrey Norton's, remember Aubrey ran like as a team. So Team Aubrey won that election at the Congress. And when you look through Aubrey's team, there is nobody there with a personality of their own.
There's no Roysdale
And
Ford,
Aubrey Norton did not cultivate anybody. He did not give them thing. And we saw that when we called them for interview on this program, they say no, they're not coming. Anything to do with that, the leader got to come, or the leader got to
and I
specifically
called
them.
Sherwin Benjamin about that.
And the leader got specifically send them to deal with a narrow set of issues. And I think that is too
With the
restrictive.
exception of Ganesh Mahipal.
Right, because Ganesh is a maverick, thing. But the point I'm making is that is too restrictive, and I don't think Ganesh is in the top 5 of the party leadership. I don't think so, subject to clarification. But what I'm saying, the top 5, the people don't have any personality.
It's Norton, Sherwin Benjamin, Vince Roy Jordan,
and another Sherwin, and somebody else, right? And the point
Paul is not there.
the point I'm making is this: is that these guys spent 4 years. This is 3 and something, almost 4 years in a position, and they themselves have not cultivated a characteristics that suggest to you that they can move on to become quote-unquote heavyweights in politics. You know how many other people in the body politic, in the PNC, who would have carved a niche for themselves. But these guys are just lame. Like political lame ducks, literally.
But the PNC has a problem that no other party in the Caribbean may have. Because although the incumbent in Barbados lost all the seats to
Mia.
They still had their quota of hype. I mean, if you're going to rebuild this party, who are you going to call upon?
Rebuild it around, right?
Who you go? I don't think Granger and Harmon.
The only person probably who think there might be in terms of young people to rebuild with might be Christopher Jones.
Right, it can't.
He is the only person who got a thing. Sherrod Duncan has a name through his social media activism.
Yeah, but they're not of the Roysdale Ford, the Manza Watson.
Exactly, that is the point
not
I'm
even
about
Christopher
to make.
Jones.
I don't think they command a Manza Walton Desir type.
The supporters of Duncan and Christopher Jones are people who they're along the David Hines type of thing. You can't find those lawyers and doctors and
right. That would have been my second point. But notwithstanding, they do have a nationally known presence that you could use to appeal to a certain aspect of your support base.
What is going to happen is that a group of people that are not so well known, but have some kind of middle class standing. I think there's going to be a force, invisible force. It could be Granger, Gwyneth. They're going to meet among themselves, and they're going to sponsor these people to be in the PNC. They're going to pick, knowing them, knowing Granger is typical middle class. They're going to pick some honorable, respected people to fill the void. I think that's what they're going to do. You have two lawyers, Dexter Todd and Ronald Daniels.
My problem with Todd has a name and a personality and a presence that could build on something. But my problem with Todd, he himself just came in.
Not like
exactly. He just came in and he came in pandering to the fringe.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is sufficiently different from what Norton brings.
Yeah. He doesn't. I've been analyzing him.
He doesn't come over to you as somebody who have a fresh.
Oh, you think any serious lawyer gonna tell Norton that they're gonna file a writ against a mad businessman who said nobody don't know, but we're not all right. I mean, Rosedale Ford would never tell Norton I can sue.
Rosedale Ford, for example, comes over more as a intellectually balanced, type of person, measured,
but in
with
terms
more
of
leadership temperament
in terms of
and all
behavioral
of that.
output, he's not a verbally aggressive person. So there's not much to rebuild that party. One just hope we're not witnessing by 2030 it's going to be so bad that they may end up with 4 or 5 seats. To prevent that, they've got to start the rebuilding now. One of the suggestions I think that should be passed on to them, and it's a key, one of the keys, is how they behave in Parliament.
Yeah. That and their general outlook, if I could offer my advice, I would tell them to experiment with other young people. They have this young guy named Corbyn.
Any relation to Robert Corbyn?
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I think he's a young lawyer. And what they can do is cycle some of these people through public exposure, and they will come. Those who are good will come through. Because, for example, Amanza Walton Desir didn't take long. Within a year, the nation knew that we were dealing with somebody who got what we used to call in Guyana, I don't know if they still use this word a lot, political cargage.
Cargage.
Right?
Yeah.
So it didn't take a year for us to realize that.
Money.
We look at I just meant political capital, right? It could be it could also mean capital.
That's what it means in Hindu thing. Yeah.
Right. No, but by you said money. By you said money, I didn't mean specifically money, right? So
real estate.
You could easily have seen that, and I think if they cycle some of their people, give them exposure, those who got talent, as the people always say, you boil milk, the cream will come to the top, and that could be one of their approach.
I think one of the strategic direction they have to go in is to make sure that they follow some of the subtle strategies of two previous leaders, Burnham and Hoyt. Burnham called on the street people when he wanted to, but he also called on Sonny Ramphal and Shahabuddin. So he straddled. You know what he did? He tell Hamilton Green, make sure those people in the low-income areas, make sure you keep in touch with them, right? And he cultivated his middle class stratum. He never really put all his eggs in one. And Hoyt, you know what Hoyt did? Hoyt demobilized the pro-Burnham, pro-violent faction in the PPP, and he brought in a whole set of newcomers. So they have to move away from the traditional deploiement of the PNC. That has to go.
Yeah. Even my friend Coretta McDonald, who is union leader and all of that. When you go, for example, on social media, she constantly attacks anything that Priya Manichan said. But all right, we understand that you make her.
Thing,
she's in education, Minister of Education, so that's your focus. But when you look at it, every response from her has personality attack in it. You got to talk about somebody.
But do you know
somebody belly, somebody head, somebody hair, somebody?
Do you know this book? That is Burke.
Yes.
That is Benchop.
So, yeah.
I write the column and Burke can reply. He got worms in his head.
Yes.
Not that
exactly. Not that you're right.
His interpretation of history is flawed.
Right.
No, nothing.
I think they got to shift. They got to shift from that. Attack Priya, but deal with the issue at hand and deconstruct the issue for people to see and see how much you can lay what Priya's policies are, see how much you can lay bare and open. But soon as you're gonna talk about somebody, talk about how somebody hand bend or the eyes.
That's a Lincoln Lewis sermon. Ugly.
Yeah. Soon as you go down that line, again, the only people who are gonna follow that is your core, hardcore support base, and it's not more than 70-something thousand people in the whole country. You have that to show you that it's time to change course.
But that 75,000 have included people who felt, let me give them a chance. That could have been decent African Guyanese too.
Yeah, but they still voted. So they got some decent people who don't like that, but they find some positive. Todd came on board. This guy Daniels came on board. This supermarket guy, Psycho Andrews came on board. Some of these people came on board, and people might say, okay, because of them I vote, but they still voted.
The former mayor Ubach was still on board.
Right. But the people voted, and imagine some of those people you just described are on board. So imagine if you shell that out, you leave with 60,000. And so I am saying the people, when you go down that line, the people who you appeal to is just the 60,000. And if the PNC doesn't see that, if the PNC can't see that, I know they miscalculated, but
they miscalculated
big, and we were talking about that for months on this program.
They miscalculated in Tunisian ways. So, on this program, I said something. I made reference to that UG Professor Al Crichton, in which he was talking, in which his column was how African culture has changed. You know, my mango pelter went bad, and the lady at GTT called me in to give me a similar mango pelter. So I said, I leave in my home to come down. I hope it's not the same badups. She didn't know what that means. That whole there's a whole one of the things that are going, one of the things that is going or may have gone is the parents' racial sermonizing at the breakfast table. These young people don't have breakfast with their parents anymore. You know when they're there? And when they're done, the parents don't eat the breakfast.
Right.
No, it's at
or if they go for breakfast, they go and collect a slice of bread and just gone and eating while you
right. No, that's that thing about the dinner table where the Indian parents and the African parents cuts down each other's waist. That is gone, and that is gone because it's a new style in the world. It's a new generation in the world, and you cannot hope that young girl, that young African and young Indian who busy and the linemen and they ain't got time, and they're not present in the room to hear their father cussing on Indian and African people. So I think people like David Hines took that for granted. When he get on Facebook, he think he's talking to these people in the living room with their children next to them.
And there is something I want to repeat that I said on the last program we were together. It is absolutely, go back and check our history, it is absolutely not true that East Indian people do not break off from the PPP. It's absolutely
2011,
not true.
2015.
It's absolutely not true. And so this don't fall. If you're Afro-Guyanese and you're watching this program, do not fall for the falsehood that because that's the narrative that they're saying, that only Afro-Guyanese people stupid that has left their own, forgot other places, and you won't see them Indian people
votes
staying
put them
together.
in 2015.
Yes,
Indian votes.
and beyond that, when you look through our history and you go back through our history, you would see even Roar came and appealed to Indians and got a seat. You remember when Mansoor researched the United Force?
He got a seat.
I think he fell short of 28 votes to get into seats.
I'm going to tell you something. When in 1991, there was an Indian man named Paul Tennessee who started something called the Democratic Labour Movement. He was getting traction. I don't think we've reached the stage in this country where there's this solidified only Indians can vote for PPP. I think that era gone.
I think it's gone too. But the point I've made on this program several times is that the PNC, for the last 4 elections or more, have not made out a case, have not appealed to East Indians. And if you don't appeal to the people, you can't get their vote. It's as simple. And I showed several examples where when an appeal is made to whichever race, people respond. And you can see from Roar, from the AFC, the AFC went into Region 6 and upturned it in a similar manner that Mohammed upturned Region 10 from the PNC. And so there is enough evidence that you organize yourself in such a way and make out a case that you can attract votes from any race in this country, from any party. And you have to give PPP their feather for understanding that if you live on the fringe, you're going to get fringe response. And they did not. They enlarged their course and they appealed. They made out a case to Afro-Guyanese. And you go and look through the results, Afro-Guyanese throughout the country responded. And some of these things is you don't have to wonder if Afro-Guyanese supported the PPP. You just go and look at the villages, look at the name, look at Mocha, look at even Buxton.
2023 with the local government election.
And you will see that Afro-Guyanese voted in, I wouldn't say significantly large number, but large enough number to create that 3-seat shift that we saw. And so don't run away with that idea. And PNC, if they want to research, that they have to appeal to all Guyanese. However they're going to do it, they just got to get there and appeal to everybody. And if, again, I'm saying, they continue on the fringe, they're going to stay on the fringe.
But do you know something? We haven't checked it. It's about 20% or thereabout. The mixed votes, the mixed race people,
but what
I vote for them.
What I found though, Freddie, is that mixed race people themselves take a side when they're growing up, you know. When I say take a side, you talk to mixed race people, they feel more of one race than the other, right? And so that also may guide their political choice. So when analyzing, I don't too much say because they mix the stand somewhere in the middle.
Right, they don't. They don't.
Right, they don't. They take.
I think the PNC probably think once you got Africa and when you mix it, you're going to support them.
Yeah, but we keep saying on this program that that's a fallacy, that the PPP, the PNC just walk around thinking that this is a black village, this is we village.
But something has badly deteriorated in the psychic outlay of the top African leaders in the PNC, outside of the PPP, outside of the PNC. Because look what Alexander said. Alexander did not come on the program and say, well, the country's evolving, you're going to expect some African Guyanese to find the PPP attractive. After all, it's all money. He said the man born got some of them traumatic.
Yeah, it's born in his brain and into his DNA.
Look, when you see people like Alexander, former university lecturer, Aubrey Norton, former foreign service officer, you wonder what they've learned.
Norton also lectured at the
Yeah, he did. He was in my department. Yeah. He and I were colleagues in the same department. When you you know what, Joe Haynes, I got to repeat what I started this program with before about what he told me about that riotous lumping element and how they treated Greenwich. What he told me about that in 2012, and look, he joined that clique. But a Padaji is perhaps one of the biggest downfalls of African leadership. Those people got.
It's not the biggest downfall. It exposes the reason and the trend in African downfall. That's what I mean.
Those people got not 50 million. Those people got hundreds of millions, and they cannot show where they started a pig farm. They helped Mr. Jones' pig farm. They cannot see where a lady is selling pepper sauce and now we're expanding. That was a Padaji money. It calls into question.
They are claiming that they've done a couple of things with respect to that. Give some people some scholarship and bursaries and so on. But my thing is this: having had access to so much money, if not the entire country, because if you try to reach Africans throughout the entire country with 200 million, 300 million, it's going to evaporate like that. But at least choose and give reasons for, obviously. But let's assume they say, okay, we're going to concentrate some of this money in the community of Victoria. It's one of the first villages purchased by Africans.
The first.
Right? And invest things that people could observe. Anybody could go in Victoria later on and see a house built for some poor family, at this, at that. You can see evidence of the thing is, people don't understand. It's just like justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. You gotta have visual or cognitive evidence of your presence as a group, as or whatever, and that is the failing of this group, or that is the chief failing of this group, that they did not carve out a niche, attack it, and say, look, because of the existence of this group, we have eradicated this or nearly eradicated this in this subgroup sub thing. But having said that though, Freddie, I want to pivot into something Ashiki soon said about you. It's my fault. I actually forgot. I picked up the phone to call you. I got distracted. But I need to tell you that Ashiki soon called me. Dr. Ashiki soon called me. I wonder if I should say it on the fly, but it's true and she can't sue me.
Oh, you got to be careful.
She called me to say...
No. If she sues, then
I am bearing responsibility for this.
no. The affidavit will. You will be the first defendant. I will be the second defendant. The station will be the third defendant. You got to put it over in a very way, or don't put it.
No,
over.
well, that is what I'm saying. I'm trying to put it over delicately because, and I'm reporting something that is true.
Anyway. No. But if it's embarrassing to her,
no, it is not.
If it's embarrassing,
I don't think it is.
She could save herself by saying, "I did not say that." I'm just telling you.
No, but it is my word against her. But that is not it.
But
Don't worry.
Stop her from suing.
All right, let me just continue. She called me to say that our last program with December and Yearwood, that you reference her as should not be rewarded by the PPP in Parliament because she is a now-come, one, and two, the PPP got dozens of people like her that have always been there, and as a result, she doesn't deserve, or she should not. But with the same breath, you said people like James Bond, who she interprets as a now-come. In the same breath, you said James Bond should be rewarded, and that is extremely racist. It is.
Be careful. She said that.
She said that it is racist on your part. That
on my part.
That you are racist.
Okay, well, she's not
to have said that.
Right. She can't accuse you of saying she's racist. She's
no. I'm not saying that
so
about
we unsafe.
I am saying that she said that about you.
Right. Okay. The operator say 1 minute remaining. But let me respond to that. I assert that in politics you measure what someone brings to the table. In the context of how the PPP has been reaching out to African Guyanese, and James Bond, 25 years in politics, and 25 years of being a lawyer and being in politics, I think he brings more capital to the PPP and more he serves the most strategic interest of a party that is successful in the election and want to reach out. In terms of Ashikisun, I cannot see, and I'm talking now as an analyst looking at the worth of organizations, people, I cannot see comparatively how she could be substantially rewarded, not at the expense of someone who would be more justified in having that position, authority, or post. That is what I meant. In conclusion, I think James Bond would send a message to the Guyanese society that the Guyanese society is changing. He symbolizes that change. And he also symbolizes changing ethnic thinking. Ashikisun doesn't fall in within that political analysis. And finally, I think James Bond have explained his changing political ideological stand. He's explained it on more than 7 programs around this table. He's explained it in his Facebook page. I and the Guyanese people have no written or public statement from Ashikisun as to why, after she was supposed to demit office for Parliament, she stayed on. So therefore, I cannot analyze what her position. I can analyze why James Bond, he said, I am going into the PNC to help African Guyanese. African Guyanese need to be entrepreneurial. I saw the PPP going in a direction where African can benefit. I have nothing as an analyst from her to analyze or to assess her political character. That is my position. I stand 100% by the analysis I give on her and James Bond at the end of the program. We're 1 minute over time. Thanks for being with us. This has been the dialogue between Leonard Craig and I. We will have more of this next week. We should have a guest on Friday. We will continue next week to analyze the election because there's much more to go on. Have a very pleasant Wednesday evening. Leonard and I will be here on Friday, and the Freddie Kissoon Show will continue with Leonard and I looking at different aspects of the election. Thanks for being with us. Catch you later. Bye-bye. Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show. Bring it!
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for